And I'm Michelle Graves, and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. And as always, those of you that have been my listeners for over the past 10 years know that my commitment has remained as the money lady to make sure that you have the necessary information, resources, and people. They're people you have to know to get things done so that you and your family can live productive lives. We are in incredibly challenging times. In the 40 years I've been in this industry, I've never seen anything quite to compare with what we're dealing with today. It is insane, as the young people would say. And I'm just saying that it's just like everything has just gone off the circuit. So today's show is especially exciting for me because I'm uncovering another situation that, again, I didn't even know it was possible. I didn't. All the years in real estate and banking and finance, I just never knew this could happen. So my guest for the next hour, and you do want to sit down, wherever you're watching this show, YouTube or at our other stations throughout the United States, you need to sit down right now and listen to what this woman has to say and make notes, because believe it or not, it could happen to you. I'm so serious. So my guest today is Stacey Benson-Taylor. She is an attorney at law, and she is a native of Dayton, Ohio, where we produce our show out of, and she has had an extensive background in advocating for workers and working families across Montgomery County and throughout the state of Ohio. She was appointed in May of 23 or thereabouts in the Montgomery County Recorder's Office after the resignation of her predecessor, Recorder Brandon McLean. And her commitment is to continue to provide the dependable, efficient, and trusted services of our community, for our community. This woman is a powerhouse, and she doesn't have to be ashamed to say, yes, I am, because she is. Her background is she served as an active union member and labor leader for the past 3 decades, which includes 7 years with the IUE and 25 years with the AFSCME Ohio Council, and where she served as president, local 101 board member, staff representative, and regional director. To me, that's impressive, okay? Prior to her service, again, as a public servant, union member, and labor leader, she worked at Delphi and in the Montgomery County Public Defender's Office. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to her, Stacey Benson-Taylor, JD, to talk about my subject today, which is protecting your home. Yeah, protecting your home from scam. Did you know that someone can come and file and take your home and evict you, and there is nothing right now you can do about it? You may not even know. And on a related subject, if we have time, I'm going to talk about squatters and what's happening in California and every place else, where people just take over your property, move in, and you can't get them out. What is this country coming to? For real. So, enough of that. Let's get on to the body of my subject today, and that is exposing deed fraud and what you can do about it. And if we have time, we're going to talk about squatters and what happens if you come home from vacation and someone is occupying your home. Oh, you don't think it's happening? Google. I did. It's outrageous. So, Stacey.
Hello, Michelle. It's wonderful to meet you. Wonderful to be on your show. Wonderful.
I'm so grateful. I'm sick. rewind, and bring me forward. Okay.
Okay. So I came to the Montgomery County Recorder's Office in 2021.
Okay.
I had worked for the union for many, many years. I left to run for Dayton City Commission. And during that process, because we represented the city of Dayton employees at the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees,
Yes.
I could not stay at the union and run for city commission.
Oh, wow.
So I needed to leave. And
Okay.
so I ended up at Recorder McLean's office as his chief deputy.
Oh, wonderful.
And so in 2021, going into 2022, I started working with people who were contacting our office because their property had been stolen. And that's what I say, it's been stolen.
I can't
Their property has
believe
been
this.
stolen. A fraudulent deed was recorded.
Recorded.
The property was transferred by the auditor's office and the deed was recorded. And so people were finding out in various different ways. You go pay your taxes,
Yeah.
you learn that your property is not in your name. If it is a vacant property or a property that you're fixing up, you're a real estate investor, you drive past your property and there's somebody in your property working on it. In some cases, people were still in their homes. And so it was such a wide variety of things that were happening, I started looking at them individually.
Okay.
Trying to figure out exactly what was going on. In 2021, 2022, I was talking to maybe 2 or 3 people per month about deed fraud. I am now talking to 2 or 3 people per week. A few Thursdays ago,
Yeah.
I talked to 3 families in one day.
Three families.
Families in one day. Their property had been stolen. And so
This is like the Wild Wild West.
it is. And I feel like once a person gets one house and they get a second house, then they're just really comfortable taking houses. And so, we live in a city where we have a large concentration of properties in the city of Dayton.
Yes, you do.
So you may see
Yes,
more
you do.
impact there because you have more vacant properties, and people come along, they're driving around and they're scanning neighborhoods to see, does it look like there's any activity? Does it look like, the property is vacant? It could be an older person though. You may not see a lot of activity in an older person's home.
Yeah.
Still susceptible. So it's such a wide variety of situations that I see that I decided in December that I wanted to be proactive about protecting people's homes. And so I said, the sooner people know something,
Yes.
the sooner they can do something. And so we began our Exposing Deed Fraud campaign.
How, just explain to me, because as I said, I am on uncharted territory. I owned a mortgage bank for 20 years and understand the whole legal process. I just, from beginning to end. And you got to help me
It's hard to
because I
process.
can't process this, Stacey.
It's extremely difficult to wrap your mind around the idea that someone would, if you have a car, you say they come in, they take your car, they drive
Yeah,
off.
a repo man
If
or
you
yeah,
have,
yeah.
a coat, you leave it somewhere and someone takes
Yes.
it. It's very easy to process that. But my home, my brick and mortar home,
Oh.
it is so difficult to process that someone could steal that. Well, it is literally a paper crime. It's a paper crime. In most cases, or often many cases, the idea may not even be to obtain the property,
What is the idea?
to get the money.
To refi and get the money?
Not even
No.
refi. So if you have a mortgage and I
Excuse me.
redo the mortgage,
I gotta fan
I fill out
myself.
the paperwork, and I say that you
Okay.
deeded the house to me. You transferred the house to me. I forge your signature. I have a notary
To validate.
validate it. And then I come to the auditor's office and I say, Michelle sold this property to me. And they transfer the property. And then I go to the recorder's office Everything looks good. The grantor's name is there. The grantee's name is there. The legal description of the property is there. Your signature is there. And what we believe is a proper notary, it's been properly executed.
Right.
It's all
Right.
there. And so by law, we have to take it. And so for me, I started thinking about that. How can we be proactive? The law requires that Carl Keefe, the auditor, that his office and my office look at this document. If it includes the pertinent information that's required by statute, then we are required to take that document. So as I looked at these situations, I said, okay, if we're looking at this, what questions can I raise? And so I started looking at notaries. Michelle, I don't know if you know this, but you can buy a notary stamp off of Amazon
I am a notary.
without paperwork.
Do you mean they don't have to show proof?
You don't have to show
The
proof.
commission?
You don't have to show your commission. You don't have to show anything.
You can get a stamp.
Order your notary stamp. So
Woo!
in August, when I started looking at this, and I had one particular deed
excuse
fraud
me.
case that
Excuse me,
jumped
I'm
out at
flashing.
me. Yes,
Excuse me.
it is unbelievable.
I'm starting to have
It is unbelievable.
a heat moment.
Since August, I have received in the recorder's office 11 documents
11
where 8 notaries were never notaries
in the state of Ohio.
in the state of Ohio.
Because our names are there.
Your names are there. And so in January, my staff started checking notaries. We started checking the notary seals. And so if, we go onto the Secretary of State website, we pull up the notaries.
Yeah.
If that is not a valid notary, we reject that document.
Automatically.
Automatically, because the statute requires that it be properly notarized
Correct.
and executed. The burden is on the notary. The statute has placed the burden on the notary.
Correct.
And so for years, because you can't wrap your mind around this, because you can't wrap your mind around
You just
this,
can't.
you just assume that if it's stamped and it has
And
an
it's-
expiration date
and it's a signature.
and it's a signature there, that it is a valid notary. We can no longer assume that. We
Whoo.
can no longer assume that. I have a notary stamp. Well, I don't have the stamp. I have a document stamped by a notary that passed away 20 years ago, but her expiration date on the stamp is 2027 because somebody has recreated a notary stamp with this lady's name on it.
And she's deceased.
And she's deceased. And there is a piece of property that she notarized. And so we're dealing with people who don't think like we think. We're dealing with people whose motivation is the power of money.
Yes.
And so they are absolutely impacting the lives and the investments that we have made as law-abiding citizens by taking our homes. And so in some cases you think, I had a gentleman say, well, what if the home is vacant? I was doing a community meeting.
Okay.
And the gentleman said, what if the home is vacant, and I fix it up? It's been vacant 15 years and I fix it up.
There's a process.
I contributing to the community. And my response to him was, sir, you are contributing to the community, but you've stolen property to do it.
He's a gangster.
You've stolen
Period.
property to do it. There is a way to do that. And so we have to make sure that we are also educating. And when I started this process, my first instinct was protecting the homes and the homeowners. And,
Okay.
and as well as commercial property. This can also affect
No.
commercial property.
No.
There are 250,000 parcels of land in Montgomery County. And all of those parcels are susceptible. And so there's a gentleman who has an apartment building. I have actually a couple people who have apartment buildings. One of them, she was not doing anything with it. The person stole the building, has rented properties, and has rented the apartments out, and she's fighting for her property to come back. I have one where the gentleman was still collecting rent, and the property was stole and sold right up underneath him. They were not worried about getting in the property and collecting the rent. They were worried about the big payday. And they figured whoever bought the property would have to deal with the fact that the owner was still in the property. And so we're not looking at a situation of, young people steal a car, they want a joyride.
Right.
Some people steal the houses so that they can fix them up and sell them, or fix them up and rent them out. But some people are literally looking just to flip. And those people, to me, are more dangerous and more difficult to catch.
Well,
because
yeah,
they're just
they get the
selling.
money and
They're
move on.
getting the money and moving on. And so then I started to think about our innocent investors. We have an amazing market for investment property here in Montgomery County.
I have several friends that are investors.
Right. And so when you think about our realtor, our investment companies and our rental agents and landlords, if you're in between renting and your property is vacant, it is susceptible. It is susceptible to someone coming in. If you're an investor, and I have a lot of zealous investors that I talk to, they purchase properties off of Facebook Marketplace, sight unseen. And so while that may seem like...
So they do no physical inspections, no...
No physical inspection. They don't work with a realtor. They don't use a title company.
They don't do title work?
They don't do title work. And so ultimately, you have a young person or an older person who wants to get in this investment market. Montgomery County is like number 4 or 5, I believe Carl Keith said in a meeting, in cash property transactions.
Whoa.
So we're moving...
You moving property.
We're moving property.
Yeah.
That's wonderful for investors. I buy for 10, I put some money in it, I flip it for 25. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's also a space that the thieves have slid into. And so this cash property transactions. And so investors have to be extremely careful who you're purchasing your property from. Make sure you go to the bank with that person. Make sure you go to the notary with the person that you're buying this property from. Because at the end of the day, if a family shows up and says that property is stolen, you won't know who the man or woman behind the curtain was.
You really won't know.
You won't know. Because especially if they've already signed it over, the notary won't be real. And so you won't be able to find the notary. You won't be able to find the person that sold you the property. And I have a situation. Again, people buy properties in the most interesting places. I'm getting my car fixed.
Okay.
We're talking. You seem like a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
So we hit it off. You tell me about your family situation. You have an aunt that's, sick or whatever. And you say, I'm trying to help her out with her, stuff.
Right.
And she's moving to a nursing home and this, that, and the other. And you say, do you know anybody who's an investor? I'm looking to sell this property. Well, I wanted to get into business.
Okay.
Here I am.
Yeah.
You sell me this property. I give you this money.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, that wasn't your property. That wasn't your property. You stole that property from another family.
The person sold you the property.
Yes.
And they were not the rightful owners.
Right.
How do you unbuckle that? First, get your money back. Yeah.
Big challenge. How do you get your money back from somebody and you don't know the man behind the curtain? You don't. A lot of these investors don't get their money back because you went on an ad on Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
You don't know who that is on the other side of that ad. You met that person one time in passing. Can you describe them? Do you know what kind of car they were driving? There's so many ways in which people are being scammed. Probate cases.
I was going to ask about probate.
Cases in probate. While that case is pending.
It could be for a minute.
And it could be for a minute. And we'll talk about a program I have to hopefully help us.
Yes.
Later on. That case could be pending. And so someone could be preying upon that property while it's in probate. Because you have a case happening over here. And I fill out a quitclaim deed.
Right.
Sign your aunt's name, your great aunt's name. Put the property in somebody else's name. Doesn't have to even be in my name. And now I've stolen your property.
Let me ask you this, because over the years I've done all these things, but it's by the rule of law. It's just never occurred to me. I mean, you got to be thinking a certain kind of way to do that. I mean, you just really, all of this involves tactics that show there is no respect for boundaries or legal processes that are put in place to ensure that things go properly and correctly. I mean, you're an attorney. I mean, you all, oh my gosh, you all, the Constitution. This is so bizarre. Continue. I'm done.
I had a gentleman say
I'm done.
to the owner of a property, it was vacant 5 years. I didn't think you wanted it. I didn't think the family wanted it. The man had been watching it. And
he watched it.
He watched it. And he figured no one came in to fix it. Nothing was happening. And so he said, I didn't think you all wanted it.
Taxes paid? Were the
yes,
taxes?
the family paid. The family.
Well, at the point taxes are paid, yes. Somebody's looking.
But people,
maybe.
Either people don't know that these resources are available to check and see, or they're not using them. And so the gentleman, and this is so important for us in our communities. Pay attention to who's in your neighborhood. Pay attention.
I do.
Pay attention who's around. If you have properties that are vacant and you've been in your neighborhood for years, you know that family.
Right.
You knew the grandmother or the great-grandmother or someone. You know who that family is. If you start seeing somebody coming over there working and it don't look right, try to reach out and find that family member. Try to contact them and tell them, hey, are you working on the house? There's somebody at your grandmother's house. There's somebody at your aunt's house. And that is how a lot of people find out. The neighbors are paying attention. And so we have to make sure for our investors, when you purchase a home, go meet the neighbors. Let them know who you are. Let them know what company should be working on your property. Tell them Cooper and Sons are coming and they'll be doing a roof. So and so. So if your neighbors see somebody else in your property that's not Cooper and Sons, they pick up the phone and call you. Because one of the things that I realized, the sooner that we know something, the sooner we can do something.
Correct.
We're in a position where the law is the law. And while I don't practice as the county recorder, and I'm not I'm not licensed, so I'm a lawyer.
You're part.
But what I recognize is that we have to be proactive, and we have to, if the document comes in and looks a certain way and has all the pertinent information, we are required to take that. But we have our due diligence. And so we are looking at this. And the sooner we know something, the sooner I find out that there's an issue with your property, the sooner you find out there's an issue with your property, the sooner we can do something. And so we have our fraud alert notification system.
Tell me about it.
Our FAN system.
Okay, tell me more.
And the FAN system is a system where if there is a transaction on your property,
yes,
any transaction, you receive a letter or an email or both if you elect to receive both from our office saying, hey, there's been a transaction identified on your property in our fraud alert notification system.
Correct.
And so if you get that and you say, well, I haven't done anything, then you contact our office and we start looking at that and we say, oh, wait, you actually paid off your mortgage. Congratulations.
Okay, that's a good thing.
That's a good
right,
thing. I talked to a lady yesterday.
Yeah, that's
she was
a good
like,
thing.
I'm so excited. If you haven't done anything, and I say, did you transfer your property to so-and-so? And you say, no, I'm living in my house. Then you know within days of the transaction occurring. You know within days. Have you seen the LifeLock commercials?
Yeah.
Where they're talking about protecting property?
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the service that they provide.
I don't either, but it's
what
popular.
I do know, it is popular.
It is popular.
People are paying a great deal of money for that. I've found that there is always profit in the problem, so we have to pay attention.
Yes.
We have to pay attention. I've seen the commercials over and over. When I tell you I woke up in the middle of the night, the commercial was on. And I heard them say something about your local recorder or your local office can't tell you something faster than we can. Yes, we can. And we do it for free. Our fraud alert notification system is free.
Wow.
No company can find out what is going on faster on your property than our office can. Companies have to scan our property records to determine that there were transactions that occurred that day.
Correct. How are
I already know.
Right.
And so that was a concern for me. If a company can scan our files, and these are all public records. They're all public records.
Yeah.
Our records go back to 1980 online. So if you're looking for a deed, you can log onto our website, mcrecorder.org, and find it.
Correct.
You put in the name of who you're looking for. That's what it's designed for. It is not designed for a company to scan our files
Right.
and notify you about something that you can learn for free from me and my staff. And so I put CAPTCHA on our system.
Okay.
Because
okay.
it concerned me that if a company is scanning our system to find out if there was a transaction on your property, then there could be companies that are scanning our system for reasons that are not lawful.
I totally agree.
And so that's
and would
why
have to conclude there are.
There are. And so I asked my IT guy, who he thinks like, is this something else? She wants something
Exactly.
else. She's coming up with something
plot
else. This woman
thickens.
keeps coming up with something every time. January we're checking for notaries.
Okay.
Our staff is checking for notaries. And so he put that on the system so that they could go straight to the Secretary of State's website. I said, listen, after that, I said, I need CAPTCHA on the system. I need to make it difficult for these companies to scan our system. Because if the good guys are trying to scan it to protect your home, then that means the bad guys are scanning it as well.
Yeah.
And so we put CAPTCHA on the system. 1 week later, I received an email from a company out of Texas asking me for all of our property records from sovereignty to the present. Why do you need that?
Why do you need that?
Why do you need that? Why do you need to have all of our records from sovereignty to the present? Well, you were scanning the system, and now you have to go in and individually search properties.
Right.
And so, for me, I tell my staff all the time, a deed or a mortgage that comes across our desk in Montgomery County, where our median income is about $57,000, that is representative of most people's most valuable asset.
The home.
Their home.
Yeah.
And so we have a responsibility to look at every way that we can protect it.
I agree.
One of the things that's not required in this property transaction are IDs. And so when you go in to make a transfer,
Yeah.
anybody can come in.
They don't have to show who they are.
Show who they are. And that's the statute doesn't require that.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of debate about how far the statute's narrowly written. So how far as an auditor or recorder can we go in trying to protect property and trying to expose this deed fraud? And so I work with the prosecutor's office, Matt Heck's office. They represent me. And I say, hey, I want to do this. And they say, that's not your lane. And I say, hey, I want to do this. And it's not your lane. And so we kind of, I work with them to make sure that I'm doing things right and in order, obviously.
Yes.
But I also know that I have a duty and a responsibility to protect the property in Montgomery County. And so because these issues are happening with quitclaim deeds.
Okay.
So I just started recently this week, again, back to the IT guy, I need you to do this for me, asking for IDs in our office.
Well,
it's not public record. We'll never give that information out. But if somebody calls me and says, this is a fraudulent deed, I now at least know who brought it in.
You have an ID.
I know who brought the deed in.
Right.
That may or may not be the person who signed off on it. That may or may not be the person who the house was transferred to.
Right.
But that is somebody that our investigators, because I do work closely with the prosecutor's office in trying to solve some of these issues. But that gives me a name, somebody I know that brought the document in at least.
Right.
And again, for me, it's being proactive. How do I help people protect their property?
And I might interrupt and say, particularly and especially our senior and elder population.
Yes.
Because many of them are women, widows.
Yes.
The house literally is all that they do have.
Yes.
And to find yourself losing your only asset. And I mean, there's a history there because so many of them had to work hard to get that house.
Yes.
Things were not easy. The husband was the sole worker. And then to have his wife losing the property, actually the property is lost at the point of transfer. That's the end of the game. Because this has gnawed at me so badly, I'm in Hamilton County, and we are fortunate to have a phenomenal prosecuting attorney now, Melissa Powers, and just phenomenal, and no bad words for our previous prosecutor who's now in Columbus on the Supreme Court, but she's a tough lady. And I saw where we have had one guy, I think he's done 13 homes.
Wow.
And I wish I could have shown it on the show, but I haven't been able to get a release. So, and I had to talk to you, and that can wait. But I am going to relay all of this to her when I get back in Cincinnati immediately. Why? Because you all are ahead of the game. And the other thing is, if it's happening here, it's happening every place else.
It is.
New York, California, Philly, any place where there are homes, which is everywhere. It can occur.
Yes.
So have you all been able to identify the perpetrators?
So
is it a gang? Is it a organization?
It varies. There are individuals. There are LLCs.
I was going to ask, are there LLCs involved?
LLCs involved, and it varies. It's so random. It just when you think you see a pattern, or just when you think, I've identified a few people who have done multiple houses.
Okay.
And most of these quitclaim deeds are handwritten. And I received a call one
handwritten.
Handwritten. Yeah, most of them are handwritten, and they generally all look pretty much the same. How I located one gentleman, or figured out who he was, his deeds were very well typewritten. And so I received a complaint about one, and then I received a complaint about a second one. And I said, this looks similar. I've done turned into Perry Mason now.
Okay, I would be on that, yeah.
Yes, I'm like, there's something, it's weird.
Yeah.
These are eerily similar. And so I had my staff go back and start looking, and we found several documents that this
were
person,
the same thing.
But it was hard to figure out who was who, because there was always a different name that the documents were transferred into. There was a familiar address of where the documents were getting mailed in some cases, but they weren't all the same.
Because you still have to give tax notices.
Right. And
they have to have an address.
The notaries on some of them were not good or had expired. And so I saw a pattern here. And when I started rejecting deeds in January, because of the notary, the gentleman came in. He said that he had utilized this same notary late last year. And I said, well, we are, in order to protect, properties, and to protect not just homeowners, but investors from ending up in bad deals, we are now checking notaries. So this isn't a valid notary. And he happened to contact our office again and ask some questions that then we linked together to figure out who he was. And so, as I stated earlier, I work closely with the prosecutor's office. Anytime somebody calls me about this, I get as much information as I can about the prior owners. I pull the last deed, I pull the new deed, which is alleged to be fraudulent. I get as much information as I can, and I make a referral to the prosecutor's office. And so I work closely with the prosecutor in trying to provide as much information as I possibly can to point them in the right direction. But it is a difficult crime to prosecute, because, again, you don't know who the person is that was the thief involved. And so I thought about it when I thought about it, and it's funny because I'm always asking, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Get in your lane, get in your lane. And my best friend, she calls me the law and order recorder. 'Cause I'm like always trying
I like that.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I like that.
And so if we can't figure out who the thief is in the transactions, is it the person who forged the signature? Is that the same person who has the property in their name? Is the person who forged the signature somebody else? Is the person who purchased the property an innocent buyer? That's all very difficult to figure out during these investigations. And so when I decided to do the IDs, what I said was, if you are in possession of my car, it is receiving stolen property. If you bring a deed across the desk and it turns out to be fraudulent for some reason, there should be a certain level of accountability there.
Oh my gosh.
And so that is information that I now am able to refer to the prosecutor.
Right.
Again, being proactive in how we stop this. I am working with and have talked to Willis Blackshear Jr., our state representative, Phil Plummer, our other state representative in this area, about how we can legislate
That's going to be the
problem
key. Yes.
that didn't exist. We can't wrap our mind around this. When they were doing the statutes regarding transfers of property, I'm sure it was about the ease of the transaction.
Right.
How do you make this, an easier process, a streamlined process? No one was thinking, oh, somebody's going to use this to steal property. No one was thinking that way.
Right.
And so now we have to, it's like anything else with the scams and whether it's the banks and the phone calls or all of these things. We have to be proactive and now legislate accordingly to what is happening. And so I'm talking with our representatives to say, okay, this is what I can do on the front end.
Right.
To try and stop some of this. But there are things that we need to do as well. And so, on the front end, we record our property. We register our property for the FAN system.
Okay.
You can sign up by coming to the office, filling out a form, or you can go to our website. We have a QR code when you're out and about. We've tried to make it easy as possible for people to sign up.
Correct.
Because again, the sooner you know something, the sooner we can do something. And then also, I created this decal for the windows. So that when you sign your property up, you put this decal. I want all of the people who are stealing properties to ride around neighborhoods and say, oh no, that property's protected.
Right.
They're going to have notice faster than a house that doesn't have that.
So this goes on the front window?
Put on the front window, front door.
I think that's actually
like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so now everybody that signs up receives one of those. Now we had, again, you heard me say it's 250,000 parcels in Montgomery County. The fraud alert notification system was created in 2018.
Okay.
In December of 2023, we had slightly over 13,000 people enrolled.
Out of 250,000.
Out of 200, we had 13,000 parcels enrolled. Since December, we have enrolled close to 6,000 properties. So we are moving.
The word is out.
Yes, the word is out.
The word is out.
I'm going to churches, community meetings, senior centers, Rotary clubs, Optimist clubs, neighborhood associations, wherever I can go talk to the community. I want to educate people.
Yes.
Because people don't know this is a real thing. And it is. And so the more people we can educate, the more we can stop this. And so if the properties are now enrolled in the system, it also notifies people who would be interested in stealing property that people are proactively watching.
Yes.
And you may have gotten away with it 5 times last year or 3 times last year, but we're watching.
But you know what, and I say this, Stacey, because there is so much that is over the top now in our society. The absence of boundaries. Like, why would you do this? You need to go to the big house.
It's the power of money.
I know it's the power of money. I know it's the power of money. That's why I do this show.
The power of money.
Oh, but it is.
It's about empowering.
Yes.
You want to empower people to utilize their money, protect their money, save their money.
Yes.
And protect their investments. But that same idea
Oh, it works both
facilitates
ways.
greed. And
Yes.
so if I can, hit a lick, as the young people would
Yes,
say,
yep.
with little effort and a lot of return,
Mm-hmm.
that's what a lot of people are thinking. And so it's like, like the gentleman said, I was in a community meeting, and this was an older gentleman.
Okay.
And he said, well, I'm helping the community.
How in the world, how does this work?
Because he says that's not a blighted property. That's not a vacant property. We have all these vacant properties in our community, and we're fixing them up. And my response to him was, yes, sir, you are, but there is a way to do it. There's a way to be an investor in our community legally. That same family probably walked away from that home because somebody didn't go to probate court. There wasn't a will. Nobody knew what to do. The house became more of a burden than a blessing.
And they walked.
There's a way to do it. That same family, if you said, hey, I'll pay your back taxes, would probably give you the property.
I think they would.
They would, because they've walked away from it. And so, pivoting just a little bit, for me, I believe that I am called to serve because I'm supposed to connect with the community, but I'm also supposed to connect the community with the resources.
I totally get it.
And when I looked at this situation, and I said, we have properties that are in probate being taken. We have properties that are vacant being taken. We have properties that our seniors have, they're in there being taken. We have farmland. A lot of people think that the rural land is protected. Imagine you have 125 acres and somebody's just taking 10 at a time. You're not looking.
No.
You're not paying attention. You get your tax bill, you're still paying. You're not specifically checking your acreage.
Right.
And so it's easy for someone to take farmland in our rural areas because you have a lot of land. And so it's so many different places. And as I started to look at this, I said, how can I utilize the opportunity that I have as I'm moving from protecting properties to figuring out how we deal with the situation that exists. And so as I started to investigate this, what I learned is there are certain forms that we take in our office. At the recorder's office, our responsibility is property records.
Correct.
So deeds, mortgages, etc. But
And we depend upon you all. The whole system, Stacey, implodes without you all. We can't get anything done.
Right. And so as I looked at these, what we take like 100 different documents. And so we don't deal with wills. That goes
Thank
to
God,
probate court.
that's probate.
But what we do deal with is transfer on death designation affidavits. Those get recorded in our office. What we do deal with are affidavits of survivorship.
Okay.
Those get recorded in our office. So I had already come up with the form that I give a family when their house has been taken. It's called a affidavit on facts relating to title. And they fill that out and they record that so that it says there's now a document on record saying that the most recent deed is fraudulent. And so I that is a service that we provide in our office, because if you have been harmed, you are a victim. And so to have to go find an attorney in that initial moment to figure out what to do, I wanted to make that form available. So that is your first piece of evidence that you have available to you. And so
may I suggest that with the that's filed, so that if the property does sell, the title is going to be muddy.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
It puts a halt because there is a contest on record as to the validity of that claim.
Yes. And that document,
that is powerful.
That was my first thing.
Oh,
and I had people telling me they had paid, $250 for an attorney to do that. And, obviously coming from the legal profession, been involved in the legal profession, still work closely with, a lot of lawyers, and I serve on the Public Defender Commission.
Okay.
So I know the good work that our lawyers do in the community. But this person is a victim, and now they have to go find somebody to help them navigate this system. And so I was like, I cannot help you all the way through the system, but I can get you started. And so we offer that form. And then I work with the volunteer lawyers.
Okay.
So that some of these families are eligible, and I refer them to the volunteer lawyers to help them navigate the system and find what is called a quiet title.
Talk about that more.
A quiet title is where you file a lawsuit to say that there's a question as to who the rightful owner of this property is.
Correct.
That affidavit is one of your first pieces of evidence. So you have both of the deeds, your deed, you have the deed, the new deed that was forged, you have this affidavit on fax, and your attorney files a lawsuit to say there's a question as to who the rightful owner is. And so I started working with the volunteer lawyers so that people would have an avenue of somebody who could kind of help them and point them in the right direction.
Okay. Now, is there a fee for that with the volunteer lawyers?
With the volunteer lawyers, there is not, but there are income guidelines.
Right,
and
always,
so they will determine whether you qualify. They do work with other attorneys, though, who are willing to assist. And so they may be able to refer you in the right direction.
Okay.
But all of this process starts in my office so that we can help people navigate the system because it's extremely frustrating. When I talk to somebody and they realize their home has been, or their property has been taken fraudulently, it is extremely stressful. And I don't want to have members of our community running around in several different places trying to figure it out. I want to be a resource for people. And so from that, and looking at these situations, I said, how can I help people navigate this system in other ways? And so that's when I decided we have this one form we offer. Well, what if we began to offer the transfer on death forms
TODs.
and the affidavit of survivorship forms in our office at no cost? And
Whoa,
not
my
just at no
goodness.
cost, but we're getting ready to start community meetings. I've partnered, like I said, with VLP, who's partnered with the library. We will be going out doing estate planning to help people fill out these transfer on death forms, to help them direct where their property is going. A lot of young people don't want to move back home to the family home.
Oh, they're not going to move back home. No.
But if they don't have an opportunity to sell it or rent it, then it becomes another blighted vacant property. And so I believe that we have the ability to literally change the trajectory of the housing market in Dayton.
Oh, you do?
Because we are setting people up for their future. I also talk to the volunteer lawyers to figure out how we deal with tangled and twisted titles.
Well, that's an industry.
A lot of the vacant properties, a lot of the stolen properties. I have one now. It was a situation where the house was the great-grandmother's.
Okay.
The family had lived in it.
Okay. Had it ever been probated?
It had never been probated.
Oh.
And so the person walked away from it. Because over years and years and years, you can't get homeowners insurance. You can't get a loan.
Nope.
The city has grants to help you with your
if you own
the home. And so there are so many resources that are available that people cannot utilize because they do not own the home. And so it is also expensive when you get 3 generations down. I have a gentleman, the attorney told him $2,500 to do the grandfather's estate, $2,500 to do the grandmother's estate. And if something happens to his mother, $2,500 to do his mother's estate, $7,500 to clear up this tangled title. So I am working with the volunteer lawyers, trying to figure out a way that we clear up these tangled titles.
Yes.
And help the realtors and title companies and title agencies be able to dispose of, sell, rent, whatever a family wants to do with these properties. And so I'm really looking at how our office can be a hub for protecting properties and really protecting generational wealth as we go down the line.
You're singing, Stacey, we don't have time to do the squatters review. But this has been so powerful. What you're doing, and I'm looking at the advocacy and how you brought it into the public sector in such a significant way, because it is generational wealth. this is where I'm at. It is about not stealing stuff. When we think about how people in the day stole acres of land from African Americans in the South, because of not paying taxes or all kinds of, but this is so in your face. But can you please, because our time is up, and I'm going to have you back to talk about squatters.
Okay.
Research and find out if that's a problem. It's going to be a problem because people don't have any place to live. But is there a phone number that people can reach you at?
Yes, we have all of our information here. You can call 225.
Okay, speak slow.
Let me see. Call 937-225-4275.
Say it again.
937-225-4275.
And who do they need to ask for?
So if you have an issue, all of our deputy recorders and our staff are very well versed in this. If you want to sign up for the program,
yes,
you want to contact Marcia. If you feel like that you have your property has been taken from you, ask for me. I know I'm the recorder, and a lot of times the elected official does not answer the phone or they're not available. But I really, really, really believe that you should talk to me. That I should be your connection. I feel like that this is something that is important to me because I know how hard people work to obtain their homes, to maintain their homes. And so I do handle these situations myself. And so if you ask for me, I certainly will, if I don't talk to you at that moment, get back with you because it's important that we protect your investment.
Well, listeners, viewers, scammers, you too, we coming after you. You're offensive, period. And as this show is broadcasting in other cities, I'm going to put it right in your face. New York City, what are you doing? Philly, what are you doing? DC, what are you doing? Why does everything have to come out the Midwest? For you all to get the message. The message is this. It's got to get fixed. And it needs to be fixed now. This is something that you can do. And I would urge you all to consider having a conference, having a gathering, having a networking. This woman's done the work. You don't have to replicate. She's done the work. And she's one of your own. She's an attorney. La. So, having said all of that, I want to conclude today's subject matter on real estate fraud, deed fraud specifically, and encourage you to do what is necessary for yourself and your family. It could happen to you, I'm telling you. And on that note, I conclude today's episode of The Power of Money, where we are interviewing on the subject of deed fraud. Thank you so much for being a part of my world, and I appreciate your time, your thoughts, your concerns, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.